Tepu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nefer. This is Kasank Ma Keparu with another video for you. And in this video, I want to talk about how history is all alive. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. And if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live or when I upload recorded videos. And lastly, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. You can do so for as little as $1 or $5 per month. You can cancel at any time. And you get access to exclusive videos, instructional videos on how to perform a ritual, proper breathing techniques, how to work with oracles, how to summon spirits to help you in your life. So let's go into the subject matter at hand, and I think this is a very important one. I think what we have learned, and I think a lot of the New Age and conspiracy theory movement are still learning, is that you cannot trust modern day historians. You see, they operate within the academic circle which sanctions certain narratives, and if the narratives doesn't fit with those things that have been pre-established, they will ostracize you as a so-called scholar. So what they have done is a multifold process. In other words, the first thing that they did, which is why we cannot trust them, is that they have gone and uncovered information which points directly to the fact that Native people, people of indigenous culture, meaning people of color, are the ones that started civilization. So in essence, they've whitewashed things, not giving credit to the very people who gave birth and gave rise to civilization itself. So in their racist perspective, they've literally rewritten history so that you will believe that people of color have made no contribution to history. And this is in direct opposition to the evidence that is staring them in the face. I mean, we can see this now, even with all of the proof, eyewitness testimony that we can see from historians like Herodotus, that the ancient Egyptians were black Africans, but still they persist in their lie and trying to make you believe that the ancient Egyptians were white. And it's an impossibility given the region of where the Egyptians originated from. Northeast Africa, we know that that's where Egypt currently is, and they've conveniently tried to take Egypt out of Africa. The next thing that we want to talk about is how they have a linear perspective on everything in terms of the timeline. Because they're left-brain thinkers, they taint everything that they come across. So they would have you believe that the way history unfolds is not through cycles, but a linear progression, meaning you start out in a very primitive state, and then as time progresses, you become more and more technologically advanced. And that is not so when the evidence tells us that great civilizations go through cycles. They go through a rise and a fall. And if a civilization is nomadic, it becomes very hard for them to advance because you have to settle in one place in a particular region that will give you enough resources to where you're not constantly moving and trying to find resources. So these so-called scholars and historians want you to believe that there is this progression from primitive to advanced, and that we here in the modern world today are a product of this linear progression, and that's not so. Everything moves in cycles. But again, it's their limited left brain thinking that taints these things. The other thing that they do is they look at things from a very concrete, superficial level. They don't know how to think abstractly. So when they read things like the Medu Neter, the hieroglyphics, the pictorial representations, they look at it, and what they want to do is they want to discount the metaphoric meanings behind it. And those meanings, those metaphors, those pictorial representations appeal to the right brain, and they have a very profound impact on the subconscious mind. So they don't really look into that. They kind of discount that as a way of primitive writing and things of that nature. We know that the ancient Egyptians were very fond of puns, or story within a story within a story, or double entendres. And there's a specific reason for that, because it's an occult science to write like that. For example, we know the Bible is based on astrotheology, but more importantly, it makes use of metaphors. Pisces, the fish, relates to Jesus. The idea of the resurrection, the sun resurrects in the morning, and that's the Son of God, and that is the grand metaphor for Jesus. But you see, you would never understand the breadth and depth of this information if you were just a superficial, concrete learner or historian, and that's what they are. So they completely sanitize the information that had been left by our ancestors to where, you know, they read it literally like those in the Christian church who read the Bible as if it's a history book and not full of occult meaning and metaphors. And the last thing that they've done, and this has been a concerted effort on their part, and they're still doing it, is to remove the aspect of magic or the true nature of who you are. You'll notice how it doesn't play any prominent role in history. For example, you will read about ancient Egypt, you read about Kemet, and then you read a little bit about the priesthood and what the priesthood did, but they will relegate that to a small part in the grand scheme of Egypt's history. You have to understand that our ancient ancestors, whether it be the ancient Chinese, the Mayans, the Native Americans, magic played an essential part in their everyday life. And because of these historians, Judeo-Christianity background, they look at that and they label it as pagan, and they look at it as primitive in a way, when it's not. It's an advanced science. So therefore, you're not getting the full story of what that meant. The pharaohs would not go to war if the priests did not sanction it, if did not say it was okay. And usually the priests went to the oracles. And if the oracle said, yes, we can go to war, then they did so. So all of that has been taken away and relegated to just a small part. For example, you may read, as Wallace Budge in his Book of the Dead, how you'll read something and it'll say, this is a spell, versus the same thing in the Christian Bible is called a prayer. So you see how the label and terminology is different. And that makes you a little bit afraid of it, and you want to step away from it because you think spell, you think curses, you think black magic, you think all of these things, you know what I mean? But you don't look at it as a legitimate religion, a legitimate science that worked for these people. You see, our ancestors were not dumb. They were very intelligent. They would not be practicing what we would call as voodoo, juju, magic. They wouldn't be practicing these things if they didn't work, if they didn't produce results, and these things did. But our modern historians, the archaeologists, the Egyptologists go in there and they basically filter and censor the information. So when it gets to you, it is not in its purest form. And what you're reading is something that has been tainted, has been rewritten, and has been falsified. And this is why the world is in the condition the way it is now. If these historians were to tell the truth, everything would be different. If we were to go to school, go to the major universities, and really learn what happened in history, it would have a profound impact on our psyche, and it would change the way the world operates. Because we based everything on integrated brain thinking, a holistic view of life, and not this left brain, linear, segregated thought process, which has basically damned the planet and condemned us to where we aren't able to solve problems that go on. And what the left brain will do is constantly create more problems. And yet they cannot see that. Some do on the higher levels of the academic circles. They know exactly what's going on. But those on the lower end are not aware of that until they start to rock the boat. And then they understand very quickly that if they don't go according to the sanctioned narrative, they will be ostracized, they will be vilified and kicked out of those academic circles. So I want to thank you for tuning in and listening to this. And I just want you to think about things when you're learning about history and when you're reading, to look at it with a more open and holistic perspective. This is Kasank Ma'at Keparu, son of Ma'at and Tahuti. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until my next video, Amun Ra.